So
Yeah.
you go off to the Art Institute, and I didn't go through the traditional educational route, but what did you hope to get out of college, and then what did you get out of that experience?
Well, what I got out of that experience is that you don't need a degree to be a successful artist.
This is true.
so, so I mean, I think that, and on top of that was the chip of not completing it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Paint Method podcast. Thanks so much for just being here to spend some time. Those of you new to the Paint Method, welcome. You know, I've been on this creative journey for quite some time, and I think I've learned quite a bit of lessons along the way. But as I look back, I did think about, what were some of the key points on my journey? And I really think about how everything started with a passion, just a passion to create, yes. But also I had these other passions. There was these things that I was into like music and dance and hip hop, just culture in general. And then I used one of my passions, art, to start to bring that to life. And along the way on this creative journey, putting action behind it, intent and purpose, new situations to help me grow, and then even moments to teach and impart knowledge as well. And that's really what the paint method is about. It's about this creative journey that we're all on. And I feel fortunate to be able to meet other people who are on this paint journey along with me. And some of them are not creatives and some of them are. But this individual that we get to talk to today, yes, he's a multidisciplinary artist. Yes, he creates icons of culture in his imagery, bold color. I mean, you name it. But what he did best with his art was he connected it with another passion he had early on in his life, and that was the barber world. And it's not exactly what he does now, but that collision of the two passions is what ultimately brought him to the success that he has today. So we're super excited to talk to Chuck Styles today. I hope you enjoy this podcast. And also, if you're listening to this wherever you listen to podcasts, please follow. And if you're watching this, be sure to subscribe. Welcome to the Paint Method. This is Chuck Styles. Let's go. We are all on our paint journey, but where are we now? And where do we go next? This is how passion, action, intent, new, teach. This is the Paint Method.
I've been following you since your like beginning YouTube days, man. Like seriously, and just
Oh,
watching progression on TV. I remember being like so hyped watching America's Got Talent to see you,
yeah.
and I'm sitting with my wife like, "Yo, that's the guy from YouTube!" Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? To see like your career just continuously take off, bro. Thank you so much, man. I'm humbled and honored to be here, man.
No, I mean, here's the thing. Ray, did we start? All right, we're going. Here's the thing. We're sitting here today because I have seen nothing but like this intense consistency from you. And it's from my perspective, I'm in California and I get to see artists from, all over, but just to see someone that I didn't know originally, I just started following you. I'm a fan of your art and your style. And then just watching you build, I became a fan of your consistency. And
Wow.
so, that's why I'm sitting here because there's so much so many questions I have, man, and I appreciate you joining for this new podcast that we're doing.
Oh man, thank you so much. It's I learned from the best, man. I learned from the best. You've helped show other artists what it means to be consistent and stay the course. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
and
thank
and
you.
and present your artwork beyond the means of just like being in a studio or being in a regular gallery.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't be able to say that I wouldn't be able to confidently say that I would be here sitting here talking to you if it wasn't for you. So thank you.
Man, that really does mean a lot, man. But you've definitely you have an understanding of branding, you have an understanding of what it takes to be a consistent career artist. And I always believe that there's a lot of people that can sell one piece of art for a large amount, but to be able to do something consistently over a lifetime is a rare thing. And knowing that you have this understanding, I know that you have you went to college and you even had a background in the barber world, which we'll get to. But before that, you grew up in Philadelphia. And
Mhm.
I'm just curious, what was that like, one, growing up in Philadelphia, and then two, being a creative in this, I would assume, very vibrant community?
Um, it's funny enough. I grew up like right outside of like West Philly, in a small suburb called Lansdowne, and it's like literally like I wouldn't even say like 2 miles outside of the Philadelphia border, but it still was being raised in Lansdowne. You didn't have the art galleries, you didn't have other people that were artists that you could look to as an example. Um it was it was challenging, especially when all my peers wanted to play sports, or what I mean, was into a little bit of the gang activity stuff, fighting and beefing and everything like that. So I kind of just always held on to this talent, because one thing that I was always told was, don't ever waste your gift. If this is, a gift from God, don't ever waste it. Don't ever take for granted
Who
your
told you
gift.
that? Who told you
I
that?
believe either my mom or my grandmother,
God bless
or
them.
yeah, seriously, it was just one of those things where I just kind of always held on to it. But funny enough, David, uh, I held on to it, but it wasn't anything that I pursued, because, like I said, because of my environment, it was like, well, I can't be an artist, so I'm not going to try to be an artist. Everybody throughout schools, like, you might as well be an artist. No, I don't want to be an artist. I
And
don't
are
want to
you
be.
reminded based on this, on the situation that you're growing up in, or people telling you this? Like, because a lot of dreams get stopped because of one or the other. What was it for you, that didn't make you just want to run with it at first?
Well, it definitely wasn't my friends. It definitely wasn't my friends, because my friends always saw my abilities, and thank you for always, just supporting. You know, um, I think it's just you know what it is. It's just like the young adolescence, cycle of finding yourself. You know what I mean? Just I'm 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 a victim of that. You know what I mean? Peer pressures on what it means to be a young man, and what it means to be cool, and how to get girls, how to impress girls, and it was so many things that being an artist wasn't putting me in that light. So it was it was a it was a mixture of my environment, but never my friends. I think it was just a mixture of me just trying to find out who I was,
Yeah.
that kind of prevented me from pursuing art like full time. But throughout high school, I did a lot of prom dress designs for girls, or pep rally, painting on jeans and jackets and things like that. I was very heavily involved in art, but outside of school, it was like, nah, I don't want to be an artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny.
And did you go into college or art college right after high school? Was there a period of time you were just trying to figure things out still?
Just trying to figure things out. Just trying to figure things out. I ended up graduating with like two close friends that one that I'm still very close with to this day. He's like my personal photographer, and another gentleman. His name is Muhammad. Um, those two brothers helped me stay the course with artwork, because I wasn't looking to go to art college or college in general after high school. I went into barbering um, a little shortly after high school. And for me, that was another way that I was able to express my creativity. Not necessarily like painting, but just crafting, this style of art in someone's hair. That was me expressing my artistic abilities. But when you're starting off as a barber, David, you don't always have the clients. So I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time, and in that time, that's when I started, practicing my sketch work, always having a sketchbook, just doodling. And it was actually my barber peers that kind of like encouraged me to, say, hey, you might want to consider that, that career. I
Yeah.
know you want to do barbering. And they're telling me this being 20 years vested in barbering. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm very aware of, my elders and what they say to me. So when they say, hey, young blood, you don't want to waste a lot of years because, it gets slower as you get older. Um, that's when I decided to invest and go to Art Institute, enroll myself in Art Institute, and take that first step into, seeing what this art ability could take me.
Yeah. Did was barbering at the time? Did it feel like that was the plan B? As in, okay, I'm not gonna do art. This is the plan B. Or at the time, did it feel like this is plan A and art is plan B?
Yeah, that barbering was definitely plan A.
Okay.
Barbering was definitely because I mean, at the same time, David, I was cutting hair when I was about like 13 years old.
We
So
had that in
while
common.
I
So I was doing the
yeah,
same thing. Believe it or not, based on my haircut, I grew up in my mom's hair salon,
oh
and
wow,
my backup plan was to do hair because that was a
amen,
family business. My grandmother did it, my cousins did it, my
yeah,
stepdad, my uncle. I was literally, it was in the blood to do that. And
wow,
that was going to be my plan B, kind of. But I would have totally just went into that barber world.
man.
Yeah.
Look, it's not a surprise, man. It's so many like super creative people in the hair industry, man. So it doesn't surprise me that you nice with your cosmetology and hair creations, man.
I
Yeah,
probably would have been doing like just ridiculous color on people's hair and calling it forward. It would have looked crazy. But I don't want to
yeah.
skip over the barbering thing real quick because you did have some level of success in that world,
Oh
correct?
yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like was that intentional? Was that just part of you just wanting to be excellent at whatever you did and at the time it was barbering or what before we transitioned into the art college or in the barber world, what was your mindset at that time?
I think funny enough, before I went professional barber, I worked at the time Strawbridge's. Are you familiar with Strawbridge's?
No, no, no. I've been to Philly. Is that in Philly?
It was primarily on the East Coast. It's like Macy's. It was like
Okay.
Macy's.
Okay. No, I'm not familiar with it. Super
So
West Coast
Straw
kid.
So Strawbridge's was like Macy's, and I remember I worked there a little after college. I mean, a little after high school, and they put me in the China department. They put me in the China, and I had no. I wanted to work in the men's suits department. They put me in China, like wedding registries, China, and I'm like, oh man, what? Why did y'all put this young black man up in China? I have no idea where any of this is, right? And I think they did it on purpose. But for me, that was like a challenge. It was like, okay, you put me in this unfamiliar environment. Dave, I literally studied every single piece of fine china in there so that when customers
Wow.
came, I knew exactly what Lennox fine china was, and some of the, you know, it for me, it was the challenge. And that I think sparked the fire where it was just like, okay, well, if I can do this, I want to be great at almost anything I put my mind to. And I remember going to a neighborhood barbershop, and I needed a haircut. I'll go into there and I see a help wanted sign. Mind you, I'm still working at Strawbridge's, $6 an hour.
Yeah.
And I see the help wanted sign and I say, hey, I'm a barber. I don't have a license, but would you be willing to give me a try? And I think I made more money that weekend than I did in like my whole week working at Strawbridge's.
Wow. Wow.
And yeah, and mind you, Dave, I was like 19. While some of my other friends were going to college and pursuing all these other things, I stepped right into the barber world and was, pretty successful. And that was like instantly like plan A. Like plan
Yeah.
A, it was feeding my creative passion. I was able to provide for myself as a young man while I'm watching some of my other friends like still eat oodles and noodles in their dormitory. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it was easily like my plan A. And from there I said, okay, let me see what else this career has to offer. And I took it all the way as far as I took it, cutting NBA, NFL athletes, and being on featured on TV show and winning competitions around the country.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing ride being a barber. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something to be celebrated. I think that the fact that you took that passion to that level goes to show more of, I think, really lending to how you're approaching art now as a brand. So
Yeah.
you go off to the Art Institute, and I didn't go through the traditional educational route, but what did you hope to get out of college, and then what did you get out of that experience?
Well, what I got out of that experience is that you don't need a degree to be a successful artist.
This is true.
so, so I mean, that I think that, and on top of that was the chip of not completing it. For better or worse, me dropping out, not necessarily, not because of anything negative, but at the time I was paying for my college tuition with my barber money. And Art Institute was very expensive at the time, and went for animation, and I think three-quarters in the way, I was like, man, this isn't enough. Shout out to the animators, man. That
Yeah.
is a medium that is like, you have to love it. You have to
Yeah.
love it. It's a lot of work.
It's a meticulous art form that once people understand what it takes to create animated films, and knowing that just 30 seconds, or I'm sorry,
Woo.
1 second is 30 frames on
Right.
average, or 24 frames, which means you're drawing every single one. You add it up over 60 minutes, how many frames you have to create, and then going back and fixing it. That was the original. That was another career I wanted to go into. I guess I didn't do a lot of things that I really wanted to do. I just stuck with art, but
You dodged the
animation
bullet.
was it.
You dodged the bullet. You dodged the bullet. I,
I'm okay with
PTSD.
that.
I'm getting PTSD. You just talking about how many frames, how many drawings it takes for like 1 second. Seriously.
Yeah,
And I remember three-quarters away, I said, you know what, this is not where I see my life, in a studio over a desk drawing the same image over and over again. I wanted to switch majors to graphic design. Art Institute told me, hey, if you wanted to switch majors, we're going to take, a quarter of those credits are only going to transfer over, and you'll owe us another like $60,000.
ooh,
Yeah, man.
wow, that's rough.
I said, let me take a break. I'll get back to y'all. And that break let me, X amount of years here. Never look back, because I just couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it. So I think the chip on the shoulder, because I beat myself up for a while, like, dang, man, I didn't complete college. I didn't complete college. Not that I was like a dropout, but it was just like that. I stepped away because I can't afford it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
And
I
and
think,
that is one of the, sorry to cut you off. That's one of the biggest frustrations that I have with uh mostly creative colleges. One,
mhm.
being into it now 18 plus years, and never once was I ever asked what my degree was. It was what the proof of work. And then two, I'm half Mexican. I'm mixed with a bunch of different things. Most people who look like me come from areas that we just don't look at a big pile of debt as in, like, I don't even know how to manage that. Like, how do I
Yeah,
even pay that back? So
yeah,
you're comparing your a current situation to taking on debt where, you know, people who live in other areas may look at that, and their family can tell them, "Oh, this is how you can use the debt in a positive
oh
way." And
yeah,
so I didn't know that. I just get to college like, look, the risk for me would be I'm stuck with debt, and I don't have a job in that industry. And so
yeah.
and that's also why I started a nonprofit with my high school art teacher to help young creatives with not only the
Wow.
education but the inspiration, because those things working in unison are why we get to do what we do. You educate yourself, you figure out skill sets, just like what you did. You just jumped into college, even just, let me try this. Like, all right, I tried it, I'm gonna try something else. Graphic design, I'm gonna try that, try something else. You just gotta jump in and just try it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
man.
after college, what was it? Was it a transition into graphic design, or are you thinking like an artist now? Like I want to build my art brand, or I want to work clock in for someone.
No, I went back to like I said, I left Art Institute with a chip on my shoulder. Basically like, okay, I'm going to be successful. I still owe this large amount of money because I took loans out. So now I owe money and I don't have a degree to show for it. Yeah, I'm going to be something. You know what I mean? I basically told myself, yeah, y'all will get y'all money when I start making money, and I will be making money as an artist. And that was the
Yeah.
chip that I wore. So I went back into the barber shop, and I mean, like I said, I found a passion for graphic design, so I started doing a lot of flyers and logos for people in the barber industry and for people within the Philadelphia area. I think and for a while, even still being a barber in my career taking off as a barber, I still tried to pull up my artistic. It was like a bag of luggage. Like my art career was in a suitcase locked up, and I'm dragging it as I'm propelling in my barber career. But I never wanted to let that suitcase go. I never wanted to. I'm like, no, I have to find a way to make this art work. And then it clicked, Dave, and I promise I will never forget it clicked when I decided to not try to fight against the two careers, but marry the two careers. And I started using my artwork to speak to the barber industry. So then I started to go into the barber conventions in Connecticut, in Vegas, in New York, in Florida. Mind you, and you're familiar with the hair industry. These conventions could be like 10,000 people, thousands of vendors. Nobody was there with a booth of artwork for the salon owners or the barbershop owners. And that's I found the void and I filled it. And since then I started to understand what it meant to run a business as an artist and cater to certain niches. And you know that's when it happened.
I was trying to not react while you're saying that because I was like, we're clipping that. Like we're clipping that, we're sending that to you. So and I'm posting that because what you just said is what every single artist should do when they start their art career, which is you combine what you're passionate about with how you create
Yes.
and going into a connecting your art with the community. Mine
Yes.
was just painting live in music venues because I played music growing up. I was into hip hop. I was I remember I was even rapping in my middle school talent show. I got first place. You'll never hear
Nice.
me rap again, but I was into break dancing. Like I loved hip hop culture. I still love it. And so I went
Yeah.
to those places to make art and connect those worlds with my creativity. You were doing that with a world that you know so well in barbering. You're like, I know where they meet. I know
Hmm.
what they're into. I know the color, the texture. You just
Yeah.
know how to speak their language, and that
Yeah.
kicked things off. So when you talk about that switch, what does that feel like? Does that happen in a moment? Does that happen over days, months, a year? Like the switch is the spark. So how
Yeah.
long did that take with the switch? Because I know what that feels like. How long did that
It's
take
funny,
for you?
man. You know what, man? It's funny. I just tweeted this, and I said, man, it'll take 1,000 nights to become an overnight success, and then it'll take 1,000 more nights to get that night back. You know what I mean? So it's like
Oh,
you don't really know how long it'll take for that switch, but as long as you keep, you know, it's like going to the gym. It's like you go, you put in the work, you show up. Next day you show up, you next day you show up, and then you keep making adjustments. And then once it happens, it's like the 10,000 hour rule. You know what I mean? You'll know when it happens, and then it becomes like the limitless pill. You see your future. You
yeah,
see every lane, every capability, and how to get it done and what to do. And it's a beautiful feeling. It's a
yeah.
beautiful feeling.
It's like unlocking this thing that people told you you couldn't do,
Yeah.
or they were too afraid to do on their own or try, or whatever reason. And then you unlock it, you open this up, and this you're like, I'm doing what I love, I'm creating, in initially to a world that I'm part of, and then you're like, anything is possible. Like once you
Yeah.
realize you can start making a living, and so you start this, you go into the barber world, you start marketing to that world. How did you start selecting your subjects? Because you create very iconic subjects of culture. I'm talking about like not just Jay-Z and Beyonce, like Erica Badu. I've seen I mean just so many icons of culture. How do you choose these images, and are they based on anything outside of just being visually epic?
Wow. I think I just choose myself. It's a little personal for me, like these aren't just people that I'm just like, okay, yeah, the crowd might like it, It's like, no, this is who I really go to for inspiration. Whether it's like for instance, Erica Badu. I mean, I love her music. That's number one. That's hands down. I love her music, but I also love just how unapologetically creative she is. You know what I mean? It's like for me, it's just like, yeah, that's my inspiration. Like the fact that she can just wear like all different types of like nose rings, finger rings, hats, and scarves, and it's like, man, as an artist, she's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I look at all my subjects for that one thing that like inspires me first, because it has to. Yeah, I like to put like a lot of thought, feeling, and emotion into my artwork. So it has to inspire me first, and then once I'm inspired, I'm able to share it with the world. So I think it would start with just my own personal kind of like journey and my interests.
Yeah. As confident as the portraits and the figures are that you create, there's this other layer. And I don't know how you would describe this, but there's like the structure of the portrait, and then there's this movement that you put on top of your images. And let's just call that layer your voice. Like you're
Mm,
speaking with your brush, and there's these specific lines and dots and textures that are pretty consistent throughout your work. Is this just a pure instinctual thing, or are you gravitating towards, I'm going to pull inspiration from that and put it in here to speak for me, so that these lines speak for me, these textures, or so on? But what do you call that layer? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like it's like that's you,
yeah,
that's Chuck Styles. It's like there's a portrait, anyone, and then there's Chuck Styles on top of that. What do you call
yeah.
that?
Thank you. I think you said it best. I think it's just my voice. I think it's my voice. I think going into what is kind of known as Chuck Styles artwork, um, I realized that I had to be consistent with something, because sometimes as an artist, as a creative, our attention is like, oh, this is cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, I want to do this. And sometimes I can get like that. But I had to train, I had to put my business hat on, and I had to pretty much tell myself, you need to have certain consistencies that you always can put in your work, and they have to mean something. So the orange dot was just me kind of looking at the sun as a symbol of good energy. I love nature. I love being outside. There's plants all over my house, and the sun, it feeds us all. And so that orange dot, now on some of my works, as it has transformed into different colors, a white dot, a blue dot, and that's for aesthetic purposes. But the orange dot, it symbolizes the sun, it symbolizes good energy.
Yeah.
Now the lines and everything else, when I started to do a lot of cultural artwork, I started looking at like traditional, like, or historic African art, and just looking at just like a lot of different markings and symbols that a lot of the African tribes would use. And I was inspired by that, and of course Basquiat, and so all these things I'm just pulling from my ancestors and just inspirations of my culture, and seeing how I could make my own language, my own visual language. And to your point, the movement, for me, I like to create very much similar to you. I like to create with music. So a lot of those strokes in which direction they are inspired by music.
Yeah.
So if I'm painting a picture of like Jay-Z, I'm listening to Jay-Z the entire process. And however the strokes may flow, it's inspired by whether it's the drum pattern or the flow of his voice, or it all just comes from just inspiration
Yeah.
of the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I feel that when I see, like I said, I'm a fan of your work. Like I follow, I'm like commenting on stuff like when you post it, and you post super consistent. Like, so shifting, you mentioned it. So you got to put your business hat on sometimes, and we got to do that to be able to keep doing this. Like, there's one thing to just create for fun. I'll create in my garage for free all day,
Yeah.
but I want to put my gift to the most use that I can. And so part of that requires a sacrifice of taking energy away and thinking of ways to share it with the world. On social media, you are consistent. How how is that something that came natural to like plan content or to set up someone to post for you? Or are you doing all of that? Like, how did that shift happen? Because not all artists have that. Let's just be honest. Not all artists are aware of consistently sharing their work, whether something sells or not. You're just speaking to the world and saying, this is who I am again today. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. um well, one of the, I think, when I was trying to find myself, like, because it was a dark period, Dave. It was a dark period when I decided to leave barbering and go full time artist. That
What
was a
was that
that was a
like?
it was, I'm not gonna I'll be lying if I said that it was all roses and sunshine, man. It was depressing. It was depressing,
Yeah.
especially as like a husband and a father. I wasn't able to financially provide the way I used to as a barber, but thankfully my wife like trusted my vision and was patient. And she allowed me to just kind of like explore, and like I said, just go in, show up every day. You go in, show up every day. I didn't take any days off with trying to formulate what my art business would look like so it could be successful. But I think when it did, through that time, I was watching a lot of Et the Hip Hop Preacher, which was a very big motivational part of my life, and also Gary V.
Mhm.
And Gary V, I mean, he's like relentless with marketing, relentless. And I think I pulled a lot of gems from him, where he was just like, if you're not posting like at least 7 pieces of content a day,
Yeah.
you're not marketing. And so I had to get into that rhythm. And it wasn't about me uh, being shy, or are they going to like it. It was just like, nah, I have to show people that I'm here. I have
Yeah.
to, and not just, hey, buy from me. It was like, hey, I love the culture. You know what I mean? I think my art is good enough to at least be liked. So finding my audience that I can just say, "Hey, I'm here for you guys. You know, let's celebrate together." You know what I mean? If today we're celebrating Beyonce, hey, look, I got some Beyonce artwork. Let's all celebrate together.
Yeah.
And it was just about that, like, how can I just show up for the culture so that somebody can be inspired, somebody can look at my artwork and say, "Dag, I needed that today." It makes me feel good about who I am, the skin that I walk in, and things like that. So a lot of my posts just come from just like, I just got to show up. I got to show
Yeah.
up because I'm the voice for. I realize that I'm the voice for a lot of people that might not be confident in them being black, or them being a young artist, or you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
so many. It's so many. So that pretty much like helps with just being that consistent.
Yeah. I can see that too. People that see your work, it's like it goes beyond just enjoying the visual of it. It speaks to a similar passion that they have, and and even more so, that they want to collect it. But have you ever experienced any level of rejection, whether it's from a brand or whether it's negativity, responses, or even just a DM from someone that's just like anonymous and just says something you're like, oh, like it just hits you. Like I know I've experienced that. Someone just told me, or Ray was telling me earlier, he's like, I'm sure you're your biggest critic. I'm like, oh no, I know many people out there that are bigger critics than me. How do you handle any level of rejection?
Man, I think early on, man, I think early on, I suffered a very big blow to my ego, man, and it was just like depression. Depression is real, man. Salute to anybody that's going through it. You got just talk to somebody. I remember my first time being in Art Basel. I was contacted. I was contacted by Revolt TV um, in partnership with Cadillac. They wanted me to paint at the time, I think it was 2016, so a 2017. They wanted me to paint a 2017 Escalade right in, Wynwood in front of a crowd, right? And I remember I submitted my design, it got approved. I got all my paint that was supposed to go for that design. At the last minute, they say, hey, we're retracting our approval, come up with a new design. So I had to come up with a new design, and that paint that I had didn't match with the design. So I'm already going in there like, oh man, this is my first time in Art Basel. It's not looking good, but I'm still trying to remain confident. Long story short, I try to do my best with the truck. I wasn't necessarily 100% happy with it, but I was still just trying to appreciate, the opportunity and my first time as an artist being in Art Basel with that type of platform. Cadillac being as supportive as they were, shout out to Cadillac, they posted me on their socials. Mm-mm,
Wasn't it get a
nah,
response?
I, I think about like 70,000 tweets about how this black kid destroyed a Cadillac, and that
What?
yeah. And so I ended up reading some of those tweets the night
Wow.
of, like after the night was settling down. Mind you, I'm already exhausted, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I shouldn't have, because I thought that, oh yeah, I did a good job. Let me see what Cadillac, tweeted, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing so many like in a moment where I was supposed to be celebrating first time Art Basel,
Yeah.
Cadillac, Revolt. I'm supposed to celebrate. I wanted to leave Miami so fast, and
Oh,
and 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 it took me at least like 2 months to get out of that depression because I
yeah.
thought that I was horrible and I was about to give up my art career. And I was like, oh
Wow.
man, I dropped the ball. There'll be, and then, when you get a big opportunity like that, because I think that was like the first big brand that I've ever worked with, I was like, oh man, this is going to ripple throughout the industry. Nobody's ever going to contact me ever again.
Yeah.
And so that was a man. Now I just, you know, now I try not to take to heart, what's the saying? You're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. You know what I mean?
It's so true, man.
Yeah.
You're not alone in this. I have had multiple times that I've say like I had, for example, I did a portrait of Dwayne Wade for this college that he had went to. They were honoring him, and I had done a video, posted it, tagged him, and he retweeted it. He was like, "Oh, I love this. This is awesome." And it was a younger version of him, so it looked exactly like him as a college student. As soon as he tweets it out, I just got crushed in the comments. This is just one. I mean, people are like, "Who's gonna tell him doesn't look like him? Like, who's gonna say it?" And I'm like, I'm just reading
Man.
this like, all right, here we go again, and
Oh,
and it's
oh
just.
man.
I think that the fact that you said that that period lasted for 2 months afterwards, and the fact that you came out of that. Here's the thing: brands still called you afterwards. There was not a ripple because you've done major collabs with Tops, for example.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you just kept pushing and kept going. Tell me about
Yeah.
that. The Tops is a big thing, man. Card collecting world. I've seen you at those conventions as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's another version of connecting passions with your creativity. And it's almost like how you started, which was, going to the barbering conventions, and now you're in this other world of card collecting. What
Yeah.
has that collaboration with Topps been like? How'd that even come about? Tell me about that.
Oh man, shout out to Tops, man. This I just finished up my 20 card project with them. It's officially over. It's bittersweet. It's
Yeah.
bittersweet
Well,
because I
congrats,
remember.
man.
Thank you. So the funny thing is 20 cards, and I'm like hand drawing, like everything is like, from
Yeah.
conception to card is like all by hand, or at least digitally.
Yeah.
Um, when I first started, I was super excited, dropped my first card. Then I dropped my second card. And then by the third card, I was like, oh man, this is a marathon. Let me try to slow down. By my fifth card, I was like, oh man, all right, I'm over this. I was like, I'm over it. And then I
Yeah.
found my stride again, like by like card like 8. And I said, okay, I see the finish line. Let's just keep going. And honestly, I loved it. I loved it engaging with the fans in the community because they're super passionate. They're passionate about the sport and they're passionate about the cards. And I've just learned so much just about card collecting, just about not just card collecting, but collecting in general.
Mhm.
Like you watch the Antique Roadshow and some little old lady shows up and was like, oh, I got this vase. I don't know how much it's worth. And dude's like, oh, this is 1867 worth $100,000. She's like, oh my God. It's like for our generation, this is the Antique Roadshow. Like I'm learning, you can have certain things, not just cards. You can have comic books, video games, all different memorabilia that we cherished and had when we were kids, graded. And once that thing has a grade, going through its proper channels and it's, oh, this is, this amount of rarity and clean edges and things like that. If it has a mint 10, you're looking at possibly having something that you might have had as a child now worth, 10, $20,000.
Or more.
Um, or more.
Or more.
I
Yeah.
mean, I sat in Chicago at the card convention across from a Honus Wagner card. I'm just learning all this stuff this past year.
Yeah, sorry.
Honus,
We're not testing you. Don't worry. Don't We're not going to test you on cards.
yeah, don't kill me out there, card collectors, if I mess anything up. But I'm literally looking at what I call the Mona Lisa of baseball cards. It was behind a glass shield with security.
Wow.
This card is worth millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like millions of dollars. So it 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 was a great experience just learning so much. Going back to just like the Strawbridges experience, just like I had no idea about cards. I had no idea. I'm not even the biggest baseball fan, but me being dedicated to just showing up for this community and just showing, hey, I'm here with you guys. Let me show you. Let my art, be something to help you celebrate your passion. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think, me just being there, people started saying I was the baseball guy. I'm the baseball card guy. And I was like, I just appreciate the collectors and the people in the hobby, their passion, and I just wanted to match that same passion, and it was a fantastic experience, man.
Did you ever connect with Blake Jameson, who also did the Tops project?
Absolutely, Blake is my guy, man. I
I
love
was
that
just
guy.
gonna took the words from my mouth. Blake is my guy.
Yeah,
Man,
man.
he's actually doing the podcast next week. But
Nice.
yeah, and I love that. So even then, I'm sure you met artists through that Tops project that you probably would have never connected with before. And
Yeah,
when I got into NFTs beginning of 2021, and even now, there's so many artists that I get connected with because you're in that community. What did you take away from the Tops project when it comes to thinking about your collectors? Just how people in that world started. They're so rampant about just collecting those things. Did you start thinking about your collectors differently? Chuck Styles collectors,
yeah.
and I know you have the ones that are just anything you drop, they're always there, and they're always there for you, supporting. How has that shifted your perspective, or has it at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll shout out to Blake. I told Blake because Blake came to the studio. I got to get up to his studio too. But I told Blake that I learned so much just from his uh, project 2020. And this was before I was even considered to be an artist for Project 70. But seeing what he did with having different autograph, classifying his autographs and having different values in each classification. Certain things that I took away from what he did and what Topps did with gamifying, like gamifying, the rarity of certain cards. Like for instance, I have two of my cards here right now.
Yeah, hold them
One
close
is
to the screen so we can see. Yeah.
one is the base card, and then to gamify it, you get this special, limited edition
Yeah.
holographic card, foil card. So to have people, you know, to have people just look at certain things that you drop as extra rare, and then having them be able to have a chance to win those super rare, it brings an excitement and joy for them, you know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
something that I was like, man, I would love to do that, because not only does it give, your collectors something super rare, but it also just helps build a community. You know what I mean? Because now you have people that have, one of ones or one of tens, and now they can trade, or they can kind of show off like these super limited, super rare items of your creations. So I learned and those are just two things. I
Yeah.
learned so much from this Tops project that I will definitely be incorporating into my own practices.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same with from coming from NFTs, and we still have NFT projects coming up, but things that
Wow.
I learned on how they reward collectors, how they whitelist certain projects. So getting collectors, it's basically like a pre-sale, but getting them set up. Uh, and just things that you could take away from those industries. And I would say any artist creator listening out there, reward your collectors. Here's the thing: they don't need to buy shit from you. They don't need no one needs anything from you. And so
Yeah.
when they do make that step and make an investment into you and what you've created for your life, go beyond just thanking them. At
Oh
some
yeah.
point, like reward them. And we just sent something to a collector. This person, I'm sure he got it by now, but uh, he collects every print we drop. And my team was
Nice.
like, "Yo, this guy just collects. He just spent X amount this week, and these are just prints." I was like, "Send him that
Yeah.
Einstein hand embellished canvas. Don't even tell him. Just send it to his
Yep.
doorstep." And
Yep.
and I'm not sharing it on social. I mean, now people know, but I'm not sharing on social media just because. And we
Yeah.
could send him other things, and but this year, like we're really committing to rewarding our collectors more, and because I need to be more grateful, and I need to be more aware of that, and that's what I share that as a learning moment that I had. uh it's easy on the entertaining side to go do a show, see some people, and then you're gone, and you don't think
Yeah.
about them as collectors. But there are so many that collect stuff online and prints that drop that I'm like, yo, we got to really tap into them more. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
what?
I
Yeah, go
couldn't
ahead.
agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. We've done that over here as well. Like certain car collectors have bought like every single like signature drop. And my signatures, they go for, minimum $100. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, and we see the same people show up every single drop, and it's just like certain weeks it's just like, oh no, give them, I'll tell my assistant, yeah, like let's package that up with that t-shirts or whatever like that, and then we'll get the email, and they're just so grateful, and that just makes my day, because I'm like, y'all help feed my family, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah. And
this
also
is
giving
just,
them an entry point to collect as well. So, for
yeah,
example, I don't know this happened to you before, but I had a commission that this woman came to me, and she was commissioning something for her husband as a gift. And I says, "Oh, how'd you find out about my work? Was it like social media? Was it recently?" She's like, "No, I've been following you for like 10 years. I was at an event, could not afford your art, and I just kept following you. You're consistent. And then finally, when we had the money, I was like, we got to get a painting from you." And they spent a great amount of money on it, and it just reminded me too. So when you're consistently posting on social, that whether it's 10 likes or 1,000 likes, there are people behind each one that are watching what you do and watching you build. And that's why it's important for 5 years from now to keep growing, because as you do, these collectors, they, they're supporting you in some way, shape, or form, and they're watching. They're watching your progress.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I love it, man. I love that you did that. I can't wait to now that the tops thing is kind of slowed down. Um, I'm looking forward to being able to, just host these like raffles where I just kind of like choose a winner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get like a hand embellished print or one of my old pieces that's just laying around as an original. I can't wait to get back into that.
Yeah. Do you have a text list set up yet?
I do not. I do
Oh
not.
man, you gotta
I know.
get a text list. I'll tell you off air which one we use, but
Okay.
the text list has become way more engaging than social media or any other form of marketing that we do. You're going to be your top 10% of engaged followers and
Wow.
fans. And here's the most important part, is it's the easiest way to reward the ones that are as engaged, for
Hmm.
doing giveaways and just making sure that people that have a direct contact with you. For now, before it was email, because everyone opens their email, and then it was social media, and now it's text. I'm sure it's gonna be something else afterwards, but.
Yeah.
Man, if you don't already, I'm gonna tell you which one we use afterwards for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, and so, do you, as you go forward, as you're building your brand, is there any aspect to your journey that you could foresee, teaching? And before you answer, I say this because the paint method is a journey. It's our creative journey. We start with passion. It's whether it's barbing like you did, or painting, and mixing those two worlds, but it starts with just doing something that you enjoy and love. And the
Yeah.
action brings it to life. It's the education, it's the work, it's the hustle. And that's where you start to create the momentum. And at some point, there's an intent or purpose for you. It may have been the time where your family became a filter for, I got to come through for them. Yeah. I love the quote from you that said, how can I tell you want to tell your kids to follow their dreams, but you have to show them by example. I love
Give
that
me
quote.
give me 1 second. 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry about
Oh, no
that. Yeah.
worries, no worries. And then, there's new situations as we grow. We still need to be challenged. And this last part of the paint method journey, it is to teach, but also it's really just to share knowledge or to impart anything. Do you foresee that at any time near or in the far future for your journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For the past 6 years, I have been an assistant teacher with a nonprofit right in West Philadelphia for kids ages like 6 to like 14.
Yeah.
Um, and that would be every Saturday for like 2 hours. It was only up until like maybe like last year, like the pandemic, and then my workload. Those two things kind of like I wasn't able to physically be there, but I'm still very much involved with just like the curriculum.
Mhm.
Um, I'm very much. A lot of people are like, "Yeah, you should teach people how to do digital paintings and teach these this that and the other." The teach people the things that are already like a million YouTube videos on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I would love to, but my passion is helping somebody get from point A to Z. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not how to get from A to B. You know what I mean? Like one of the reasons why I watched Gary Vee so much was Gary Vee wasn't just the talker. He was like, okay, what's your problem? Okay, here's the solution. And he'd be
Yeah.
like right there, spitballing ideas. Okay, this is what you do, this is how you get it done. Go ahead and get it done. I'm more that approach. So I would love to, educate people on like, okay, how do you take your digital art and turn it into a canvas print and then market it and sell it as as a continuous revenue stream on your
Yeah.
website? I mean, or how to take one piece of artwork and break it into 7 different income streams, whether it's t-shirt, whether it's stickers, whether it's prints, whether it's, what I mean, licensing deals, whether it's, what I mean? I would love to educate that way because for the longest, this whole struggling artist, stigma
Yeah.
has been said, and we don't have to be like that, especially when you have the most powerful device, which is our phone, that can give you access to third party printers, you know what I mean, where you don't even have to physically touch the merchandise, or you have um, online assistants where you can have people answer your emails and things like that. So
Yeah.
um, when it comes to the actual business operation, like how do you, okay, you create art, that's amazing, because I'm art is subjective. You know what I mean? Yeah, you do have art that could, use some, a little bit of work. But if you have an audience that loves it, cool. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? If you're doing a whole bunch of dots, or you're more of a Rothko where it's just like two colors on a canvas, if
Yeah.
people love it and you have an audience, that's all that matters. Let's make sure that you can take that artwork and you create a living from it.
Yeah.
That's where I would like to educate.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on YouTube learning so many things about like cameras, editing, like all these sort of like more media type of stuff. What's in your current search history for career wise? Like outside of art, what are you trying to educate yourself on right now?
How to operate a Discord.
Let me know what you come up with, because right there with you.
Yeah, man. I'm right now. I'm just kind of like soaking up, all the NFT knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to drop an NFT project soon. Um, now that Tops is kind of like, finished up, wrapped up, I'll be able to dedicate more time. But right now, just learning all the different platforms, learning that, you know, each platform caters to different audiences. Like Nifty Gateway is more for the art collectors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? OpenSea is more for the people that, they want some utility, with their NFTs. It's so many different things that I'm learning, and just the whole Discord. It's like how to I'm a part of a few discords, and sometimes I open it up. I'm like, what the hell is going
Yeah.
on?
It's like learning a new language.
Yeah,
I always joke around like I know a little Spanish, but you throw me into Mexico for a couple days and I'm like I'm ready. I'm a lot better. Not the best, but and
yeah,
in that world, whether you're learning Discord or any other new skill set, you're throwing yourself in and you're just getting familiar with the language, and that's sometimes the best way to learn. So, but that's great to
absolutely.
know, man. That you're just I just love hearing people still learning outside of their initial skill set, like their initial
Yeah,
passion of creating. It's amazing, but we do need a lot of other tools to communicate our ideas to the world.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I'll tell you this, David. Um, the digital art is a new medium for me.
Well, you're
I'm
doing
traditional.
amazing at that. If it's
Thank
new,
you.
man, I can't imagine what 10 years look like.
Look, the funny thing is, I was traditional, like acrylic paint on canvas. Like this piece behind me
Yeah,
is
that's
is
fire.
thank you. This is me going back to like just this is my therapy at this point. Like
Yeah.
when I see you paint, I'm like, man, I wish I could get back into that. But right now, my demand, and a lot of the commercial projects that I'm working on is just like it's so much easier to do it digitally.
Yeah.
But for me, this is therapy. But coming from this and then jumping onto the iPad, my first time, whole nother language. I
Yeah.
had a whole nother level of respect for digital artists that did it masterfully. Like Andy Park, he works at Marvel. He does a lot of the conceptual artwork. He was one of the guys that I studied that just has digital art look like real oil painting. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, to be able to take a digital a digital art piece and trick the mind to think that that's a tangible oil painting or acrylic painting, that's a whole nother level of understanding. You know what I mean? Very much like how you said, it's a different language. And it took me a while to just be patient with myself and with the tool so I could learn how to like communicate with it and make it do what it needed to do so that my artwork could turn out the way it did. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, now more than ever, digital art has so much more value. So with NFTs, before NFTs, it was like a work for hire type of value. It was
Yeah.
either you could just download the JPEG, there's no value to that file, or you're trading your time to create for some other project, and they own that property and they're
Yeah.
making money off of it. And so as NFTs has shown that digital artists can stand alone on their own as valuable or even more than artists that creates physical works. And so
Yeah.
now it's opened up, especially for young creators thinking, oh, my pathway in digital art could end up being making hundreds of thousands, if not even millions of dollars, uh, based on their digital creations. And I think that
Yes.
that's powerful, incredible, and it will honestly, I think it'll open up so much more. Uh, I think just in general more representation in our industry and just creativity alone, because it's a lot easier, to create. It's not easier to create. I think it's more controllable to create on a digital surface than having to buy materials and all these other objects that fill space, take money, and so on. You know, it just each one has its own, but digitally, I feel like things are gonna change so much in the art world because of that
Oh
tool.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, my oldest daughter turns 11 on the 23rd. My middle daughter just turned 7 2 days ago or
Yeah.
yesterday. Yesterday.
Okay. Happy belated birthday to
Hey,
her.
hey, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Another one in the month, and then I'll be good for until my youngest daughter turns 3 in July. But
Yeah.
the the two older ones, they already are very much like aware of NFTs. Like, because I want them to understand that they already are operating in the NFT metaverse when they play Roblox or
Yeah.
when they play, Minecraft, and so my plan is to educate myself and understand this process and these tools so that if my daughters do choose to be creative, they'll already know that language and be able to utilize it, you know what I mean, in ways that they can get a jump start in life, you know what I mean, like you don't have to wait until you're 17, 18, get a job at the restaurant and work for tips. And no,
Yeah.
there are ways right now, and I'm trying to be a proactive father where it's just like, okay, if I manage the account, you know what I mean, we can set you up, and look, these NFTs can pay for your college, baby. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. And for dad's mortgage too. It's time to pay
oh,
back. Oh man. You're put those kids to work. Yeah, I'm same thing with my son, man. He loves NBA 2K. He's like buying these, spending real money buying these players that he doesn't own. And I was like, "Do you know about NFTs?" And I was like, let me get you working soon."
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
amazing, man. I swear I could talk to you. We're definitely gonna hang next time I'm back in Philly. I go to Philly quite a bit. I can't believe we haven't even connected,
Yeah,
but
man.
I will
But
definitely.
funny enough, my cousin Kenny Duncan he's one of the barbers that I worked with. You know what I mean, throughout my years. He's actually the barber for a lot of the 76ers players. So he knows you by way of like, oh man, you're doing a podcast with Garibaldi. Yeah, man, I'm from the halftime shows and stuff
Oh,
like, man.
that's dope.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah, yeah.
Sixers, man, we have a long history with the 76ers. They've been extremely just supported throughout my career and still. So, yeah, shout out to the Sixers and just Philadelphia in general. We've been to so much, man. I love that city. So, even if I'm just close by, I'm like I would just love to just to go to Philly and
Yeah,
hang with
man.
you out there. I want to ask you two things before we wrap this up. First
Yep.
thing is what is like a project you want people to know about? How can people follow you? Tell me that.
A project that is coming up very soon. I'm super super excited for. I would have never seen me in this space at this magnitude. I've partnered up with Damari, which is a custom tailored suit store owned by Malcolm Jenkins, former Eagle and now New Orleans Saints player. He's always been a big supporter of my artwork and just a big supporter of just me as a person, and vice versa. They've wanted to do a collaboration with me for a while, and it was centered around my artwork and taking my artwork and incorporating it into their clothes. And I said, give me a minute. Let me think of something that doesn't necessarily like just take up, my artwork and let's just throw it on, inside of a suit lining.
Yeah.
Um, a part of the Damari Seville's logo it's a crest, and inside that crest is a Sankofa bird. So what I did is I pulled the Sankofa bird from that crest and I expanded on it. I found out what the meaning was, and the Sankofa is not a real bird. It's a symbol that derives from African heritage, and it means to go forward in life, but also look back and help others and bring others with you.
Yeah.
Um, I took that design and I created artwork in a few different pieces. That artwork is going to be my collaboration with Damari, and that collection has been picked up by Saks, and
Wow.
we'll be debuting next week in Cleveland, All Star Game weekend at Saks.
Wow.
So yeah,
Congrats, man.
thank
We
you.
gotta make sure we put this podcast out in time for that, or if not, shortly after, just to celebrate that. That's huge. Congrats on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
And also, where can they follow you? That's not the last question, but where can they follow you?
Follow me on Instagram at Chuck Styles with two S's, on Twitter at Chuck Styles with two S's, and my website, www.artofchuckstyles.com.
Yes, yeah, the Instagram account is consistent, folks. Like it's beautiful. One last question I want to ask you. For the
Yes.
person that is maybe driving their kids right now to their activities, or maybe they're on their way, commuting to and from work, or maybe they're just in front of their easel painting, and they have this dream to create and provide for themselves and their family, but they haven't crossed over yet. What would you tell the person that uh, is hesitant to completely pursue their dreams at this moment?
One thing that I would tell, I mean, please, I sometimes I can be very blunt, but don't be so hard on yourself. It's a lot of corny people that are successful. So you should be successful. Seriously. I hate to say that, but when you look and always try to compare yourself on, oh, I'm not as good as that person, I'm not as good as that person, you'll never jump and you'll never do it. But meanwhile, it's somebody who is not as talented who is living their best life. So why shouldn't you? You know? Why shouldn't you?
That's it right there. That's the best way to end. Honored to have you, Chuck, on the Paint Method podcast, and I can't wait to share more about what we're doing with just the Paint Method in general.
Oh
But
man.
thank you so much for your time,
Thank
and
you, man.
I can't
This
wait
was
to
a
just
pleasure.
connect offline as well.
Absolutely, David, man. We could talk for hours, bro.
Oh
We can
yeah.
talk for hours, man. This was a treat. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan. Can't wait to see it live in person. Hopefully, COVID is eradicated and is gone, so I can
Yes.
like start traveling as much and just see the man with the magic hands at work, man.
Oh yeah. We'll connect soon, man. We'll connect soon. Chuck, thank you so much.
Thank you.